Welcome to the Baseball Insiders. Happy holiday week. Happy last day of June. Happy last day before the month where the trade deadline is. I'm Adam Weinrib, joined as always by FanSided's MLB insider Robert Murray, here on a Monday, here to talk the latest buzz with the Pirates, Cubs, Athletics, Mets rotation, Orioles and Astros connection, plus answering your questions and more. So much to cover. Appreciate everybody joining us. I think we'll see some people trickle in. And hey, guess what? If you're good today, it's a holiday week, I'm feeling loose. If everybody's good, if everybody has good questions, then I'll bring Biscuit on at the end of the show. How about that? But you have to be good. You have to cooperate. You can't say that's the biggest pressure season for the New York Knicks in the history of the NBA. You can't talk about the Thunder dynasty. You got to keep it in line. And then we'll bring on some Biscuit at the end of the show. How about that? But someone we'll definitely bring on beforehand to make sure the show is good and stays online is Robert Murray. Robert, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. All hopes of a good podcast, or at least a good crew in the comments, are over now with Hunter showing up. So that's unfortunate for everybody. No Biscuit, but it's good to be here. Trade rumors are alive and plenty, so we love that. Always a good thing. I am ready to dive into them because I have some insight, some thoughts, some of them that do make sense, some that don't necessarily make sense to me. So let's do it. Cooper is actually sound asleep, so I don't know if we'll be able to see Cooper today. But this might be a Biscuit episode. I don't want to steal the thunder from Biscuit. So maybe, just maybe we see Cooper on Wednesday. But Adam Weinrib, good to be here. How you doing?
Yeah, it feels like maybe we do Biscuit today. We do Cooper on Wednesday. We send everybody into the Independence holiday with two of the most dependent dogs of all time. And then we come back next week, refreshed, renewed, and again, another couple of days, maybe a full week closer to when all of these teams are going to make these dramatic paradigm shifting trades. And we know it's a weird trade deadline. It's not even clear if we'll have more than 4 or 5 sellers yet. But thank you to the Cubs and Pirates for getting things ignited early. And thank you to Luis Severino for starting his own business out there in Sacramento. Apparently just now realizing that his home games are played in Sacramento. If you want to talk to us between shows, join us in the Discord. All you got to do is hit that join button and follow the instructions to get into either the Rumor Mill tier or the All-Star tier. We got a Robert Murray Q&A at 3 p.m. Eastern most Thursdays, although, of course, this Thursday is a holiday. But get in ahead of the trade deadline. No better time than the present to bother Robert and I and Eric Cole between shows, between prospect shows with your questions. The Futures Game rosters are out. Eric and I will be talking about that at noon Eastern tomorrow. You can join Robert and I, obviously, right now, obviously, in the Discord, and then, obviously, again on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Subscribe to the Moonshot for more insight from Robert, myself, and the team of MLB staff writers delivered directly to your inbox. And you can also find that content and more on fansided.com/baseball-insiders for the Baseball Insiders feed. Okay, plenty to get to today. So we'll start it off with probably the most serious discussions we have to dissect, and that is the flame that Bob Nightengale lit over the weekend between Mitch Keller and the Cubs, claiming the two sides have been, quote, engaged in serious trade talks for more than a week. That brings up a question from a lot of folks, Pirates fans and otherwise. People naturally read that and say, okay, so serious trade talks over a week. We have to be getting closer to a trade. Right? They can't just be kidding around. They're not going to have serious trade talks the last week of June and then pick them back up and get something done July 29th. Right? This has to be more than just due diligence. Open up the floor to you, Robert. And what are you hearing on these two sides? And how is it possible that the discussions have been this serious this early? What exactly is going on here?
The Cubs are looking for starting pitching, and that is the worst kept secret in baseball. Their search has been very public, and the Cubs are looking for meaningful pitching upgrades here. And we've seen them connected to Mitch Keller. We've seen them connected to Sandy Alcantara, a bunch of different names that they've been connected to. And I'm not surprised whatsoever that they are having discussions with the Cubs or with the Pirates about Mitch Keller. Keller is somebody all season I've thought could really be a serious trade candidate here. And he signed for 5 years for $77 million. He's not a free agent until 2029. So he's controllable, and that would help the Cubs both now and going forward. It would also increase the asking price for him for sure, because he's a talented guy. And the Pirates would want meaningful talent in return for a player like that, and especially with a contract like that. So rightfully so. I don't know if I'd categorize it as a serious thing quite yet, because we still have a month until the trade deadline, and it's possible to make big moves. Like we've seen Rafael Devers already go to the Giants, but I think this is the Cubs being real serious, and their intent is real. about adding to the rotation. So my alarm bells aren't like ringing on this one quite yet. But also, if you look at it too, like the Pirates just absolutely dismantled the Mets. Like they took it to them, and that is not something I don't think anybody saw coming. And it resulted in I believe, a players only meeting after a game in Pittsburgh, and that's apparently not the first time that's happened for the Mets.
Apparently, this players only meeting could have been an email because they had it on Saturday and then got back out there on Sunday and lost 12-1 to the Pirates again.
Yeah, it's brutal. And if you're the Mets, you got to ask like some serious questions after that one, because they lost, what is it, 9-1, 9-2, and then I want to say it was 12-1, something like that.
30-4 in that series. I think it's the biggest blowout in the history of the Mets franchise. I don't think they've ever lost a 3-game series that badly.
Yeah, no, it's you're remembering it correctly. It's bad. It's really bad, and I don't know what the Pirates are necessarily going to do with the deadline here, because there's a lot of different things that have been mentioned in rumors. But I do believe that Keller and his trade candidacy is something to watch in the coming month. Doesn't mean he's going to get traded, but I expect those conversations to continue. And I expect plenty of contending teams looking for starting pitching, which is seemingly almost everyone, to continue to ask the Pirates about him.
Cubs fans also have noted, and this is like made it to my desk. So Trevor, not the first I've seen comment this, but Jackson Wiggins, the Cubs' top pitching prospect, who's in the futures game, got named today, has been scratched from 2 starts in a row over that 1 week span. So Cubs fans are wondering if those two things are connected. It feels like probably not, and there's just more going on there because I don't know, but it's momentum that Cubs fans have noticed. So I wanted to flag it too.
No, I've checked on this. I have not heard anything like regarding what this has been about for whatever that's worth. Yeah, I don't know. I typically get responses on stuff like that, but I have not heard. So I don't know necessarily what to make of that. But that is something that I have noticed, and that is not it's not usual. So I'm wondering what exactly that could mean. But he's also one of their like more highly regarded prospects too, and moving him, like, that'd be a really tough piece to move, because it's him, Cade Horton. I mean, there's a bunch of other guys that have been really highly regarded come up through that system. So I don't know if I'd do that if I was the Cubs, but if you're getting Alcantara, if you're getting Mitch Keller, I would rather do that for a guy like Alcantara. But I don't know what they give up for a guy like Keller.
Well, shout out to Cubs fans who noticed that, though. There is something of note here that we are hopefully pursuing. So we'll keep everyone posted. The Cubs starting pitching search, absolutely not a well-kept secret. But what about their connection to Brian Hayes as well? The contract lasts a long time, 8 years, $70 million deal, but it's one of those Christian Campbell deals. It's not terribly expensive. And if Hayes bounces back, the team that acquires him will be acquiring someone who in the moment is one of the best defensive third basemen in baseball and one of the absolute worst offensive third baseman in baseball, although he has been trending up for a couple of weeks now, and I have to say that legally so that Pirates Twitter does not flog me. But still, a ground ball king, someone who can't lift, and you wonder if the back injury is affecting the imperfect swing. The Cubs were connected to Hayes over the weekend. So were the Yankees. So were the Tigers in a Francis Romero tweet. And there seemed to be more rumblings that he could be someone on the move as well. I'm not sure the necessity of the Pirates holding on to Hayes. And I'm also not sure if he's someone who wants to be there. We heard rumors of him being disgruntled in the offseason that got shot down. But then again, here he is on the block once more with a 68 OPS plus. So who am I to judge? Are you hearing anything about Hayes?
I can see both sides of this equation. And let's start off with the fact that his contract is 8 years for $70 million with a club option. Like, that's not a small price to pay by any means, but especially for a guy that lacks true offensive firepower. Like, defensively, he's very good, as you said. Like, that's a very astute observation by you, because that's reality. But offensively, he's not lived up to the bill. And when they signed him to that contract, it was a projection of him ascending as an offensive player, and that has not been the reality. But he has picked it up recently. So I don't know how many teams would necessarily be eager to acquire a contract like that. And you would think with the Pirates, considering how cheap Bob Nutting has been in spending, that he would want the acquiring team to take on most of that deal just so they can free up some more payroll flexibility. I mean, that's my own speculation. I haven't heard anything about what the Pirates would want teams to do there with Hayes' contract. But another part of me is wondering, if teams could view Hayes as a guy that could be a player who could benefit from a change of scenery. And we've seen a lot of players struggle offensively in Pittsburgh, and their pitching development is very good there, but their hitting development has been really subpar. And whether or not it's an organizational philosophy remains to be seen. I don't know, but they struggle with Andy Haynes there. They're struggling with the new guys there. So something is not going right there. But if you can get Hayes out of Pittsburgh, you can get him with new hitting coaches and with a team that can actually develop hitting, then I think that could end up being something where he blossoms and becomes a more intriguing trade candidate. And the Tigers have done really well with that. The Yankees, obviously, their history speaks for itself. Getting him in a winning environment, I think, would be really good for him. So my guess is we continue to hear his name, but I'm kind of skeptical that he's moved, but I could see a team be pretty enticed by him and take a chance there.
And we know the Yankees, whether it's Hayes or someone else, are going to require a third base upgrade. Eugenio Suarez to the Brewers, the comment section is saying, I think, look, the Yankees are an interesting case because they obviously have a prime contention window. They are atop the AL East. They are a division leader at this moment in time. But they do not view this season as the be-all, end-all. That's Brian Cashman never views any season as the be-all, end-all, not even the one where they had Juan Soto for 1 year. So we don't even know if Suarez is going to be available. The Diamondbacks don't seem to be indicating one way or the other. But if he is a 34-year-old rental who's at the top of the market for good reason. I don't think the Yankees will match up on value there, and fans are going to rage about it, but I don't see a world where the Yankees play at the top of the market for someone who isn't controllable for more than 2 months. And that price on Suarez is going to be crazy. So, which makes me think, I don't think the Brewers are going to be there either, but it's more likely that they are than the Yankees go to the front of the line and just give up Cam Schlittler and Spencer Jones for someone who will be there for 2 months and isn't a long-term piece.
See, I don't think the price would be that much for him, if I'm being honest. And maybe because it's just the history of rentals.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it would be that high of an asking price. And I could be wrong, but I feel pretty good about that. And I could see the Brewers being interested here. I could see the Yankees being interested as well. There's going to be a lot of interest in a guy like Suarez because he's a tremendous power bat. And the Brewers, they have some young guys on the left side of their infield. But if they can get a veteran guy and help them with a playoff push for now, especially with the future of Freddie Peralta uncertain, and I've said that quite a bit, and that's something I'm going to continue to say because that is one to watch now and just going forward. I expect that to be a pretty prime conversation to have in the offseason. But as far as Suarez goes, he's a tremendous talent, can hit for power. Diamondbacks, they have been signaling to teams that they've been wanting to buy. But they have to look at the reality here, especially considering their bullpen situation. Like, I want to make sure I got this right. Correct. They got swept by the Marlins, and that is not a good situation at all because the Marlins are bad. And if they can sell Suarez, they can sell some of their starting pitchers. They can sell some of these guys. They're going to be able to compete sooner rather than later. And if they hold on to these guys and lose them in free agency for nothing, then that can end up being a real detriment to their future there. So I expect Mike Hazen to realize it sooner rather than later. He's a very smart guy, and he has to signal confidence for his clubhouse because he's got to give it one last push. But I expect the Diamondbacks to eventually sell.
We thank you for the question, too. And I think all of us on the Baseball Insiders team and the rumors, the people who monger rumors in general are hoping that the Diamondbacks eventually sell, make this a hell of a lot more interesting. One team that's still got to buy, despite the way that their weekend looked and the way that they're 3-13 in their last 16 games, is the New York Mets, who importantly are super mega extra ass, but also they do require starting pitching upgrades. They are going to be in this race in both the NL East and the wildcard picture all year long, and they don't intend on throwing in the towel. But losing Griffin Canning to a freak Achilles injury definitely hurts. So here you go, Mets. If you want to stay in the mix, you are going to need to add a starting pitcher to your shopping list. Sean Manaea coming back is not enough. I don't know if it ever was, but now it's certainly not. Are you hearing the same thing that every Mets fan on earth has to be theorizing regarding what they need at the deadline and how prepared are they to get not just help, but established help? Like, we can't David Stearns this thing. We can't get an unlockable guy with a 4.82 ERA. We got to fix this with innings we know we can count on in New York.
Yeah, they're going to do something, and they're going to buy, because I think if you sign Juan Soto and then you sell, that would point to a really bad direction there. So I don't see any which scenario in which that happens. But adding to the rotation has been a priority, and will continue to be, especially with Griffin Canning now off for the season. And that injury was really unfortunate, and he was a really nice pickup for them, and exceeded a lot of expectations, because I remember when they ended up signing him, they kind of got clowned for it, because it wasn't. I mean, he's a household name for sure, but he's never really lived up to the billing that he had when he was selected by the Angels. But it was really useful for them, and that injury just sucked all around. But they're going to look at rotation help. They're going to look at bullpen. And we even saw it with Steve Cohen's tweet, like their offense is eventually going to be better. It's just a really rough stretch right now. And I mean, the fact that they got outscored, what did we say, 30-4 against the Pirates? I don't think anybody and their mother saw that one coming. Yeah, I bet you the odds on that one on the sports books were probably like plus $1 million. I mean that, yeah. But that
Malik Beasley took it, so he's pretty.
that was good. That was pretty good. But no, I expect the Mets to heavily target those areas. And one thing that Stearns has done consistently, both in Milwaukee and in New York, and I mean, we said it before with the Griffin Canning edition, it doesn't have to be the big names, but he always finds guys who are not necessarily like the biggest names, but unheralded guys, and gets the most out of them. And their ability to develop talent, but also keep them informed, give them the right information, and just work with them is really lauded, because they just have tremendous plans. And that's something I've heard from numerous different people around the league, is that their ability to communicate, teach, and give them plans is about the best in baseball. So whoever they acquire, I expect it to ultimately work. But I expect them to get some names for sure.
Which brings me to Luis Severino, who happened to be a New York Met last year, happened to have a low 2 ERA on the road this season until the Yankees shellacked him yesterday to raise that up into the 3.2s. But look, the gambit is like 2/3 of the way done. Severino finessed John Fisher in the A's for 3 years and $67 million. Severino definitely knew they were playing at a minor league stadium, because that was public knowledge at the time of his contract being signed. And then maybe didn't know the impact of what it would actually feel like to do that. Or maybe now he just feels like agitating after not enjoying his first 3 months of the A's experience. But he spoke out both before and after his most recent start about, hey, we're playing in a minor league ballpark. Some people might not want to say that, but I'll say it. It sucks. And there was a Bob Nightengale rumor again that said, essentially, the A's can't wait to trade him. The Mets are very familiar with him. They didn't sign him this offseason. They did bring Manaea back. So if you want to stroke your chin and think about if that is determinative about how they evaluate those people, you could draw your own conclusions. But they need pitching help. Severino seems to be asking out. But I wouldn't necessarily connect the dots on my end. That said, Severino, how about in general, though? It does seem to me that he's asking out. Or are you getting the same vibes? And do you think he will be dealt this summer?
I mean, his comments were pretty strong, and that would seem to indicate that what Bob Nightengale ended up reporting, that he's like the A's are determined to get him out. There would probably be some validity to that. So he is a name that is absolutely worth watching, and his splits both at home and on the road are pretty staggering. Like his numbers at home are pretty brutal, and his numbers at home or his numbers away are very good. So there's clearly plenty of talent there to work with, and signing there to begin with was a really questionable move, but the A's threw a lot of money at him, and that was probably one of the better player contracts of the entire winter. But the A's this offseason, they had to spend, and they had to upgrade the rotation. They had to do a bunch of different things, but they needed to convince guys to sign there, considering they're going to be in Sacramento playing in a minor league stadium. And they threw big money at Severino. They threw big money at other players as well, like Sean Manaea, as you said, but there was another one that they threw really big money at. Turned him down, and he signed elsewhere. So the A's, they were pretty desperate, looking for pitching help. They got Severino to bite and take it, and now I would imagine he probably gets dealt. Where he ends up remains to be seen, but the Mets did have interest at some point in the offseason. They just did not get to the point where they were anywhere close to what the A's offered, so that's why he signed with Sacramento. But no, I would expect Severino to be playing elsewhere in a month.
Yep, I would as well. and my information was not sourced, but my source was Luis Severino saying, I hate my team and I don't want to be here, which was enough for me. So yeah, we'll see. I know Cubs fans in the comments maybe saying, hey, be a cheaper alternative. Prospect wise, he's got one foot out the door. Yeah, you're right. But man, I'd be worried about, Severino in the minor league ballpark in Sacramento, stuff not playing quite the same there. Severino in Wrigley Field in the summer, and then in October with the wind blowing, like, is that much better? I don't know about that either.
No, that's overall I don't know. Especially the wind's blowing out at Wrigley. I mean, we've seen some major runs get put up there. I mean, yeah, just not that would not be good.
Severino is someone who the Yankees very specifically, I think Andy Martino tweeted yesterday at one point, they believe they had 10 different tells on him. So, yeah, keep that in mind. There are mechanical things that have to be worked out, and there are small ballpark bad. If it's a non-pitcher friendly ballpark, I would be very wary about Luis Severino, and we'll see if he can find the right home, but it does not appear to be Sacramento. Now, in terms of players who's might be seeing their fates smile upon them this trade deadline instead of frown, the Houston Astros are once again the second best team in the American League, and once again the hottest team in the AL and one of the hottest teams in all of baseball. Their rotation is fronted by Framber Valdez and Hunter Brown, which might be the best 1-2 in the game, and they're looking for outfield reinforcement. Strong connection, it would appear, so far between the Orioles and Astros over Cedric Mullins. Now, the Orioles, again, not selling yet. We don't know how the Orioles are going to play this. They should be willing to at least hybrid it in some capacity. But what do you feel about that connection? Is that a valid one, or are we chasing, or are we barking up the wrong tree when we think about Mullins and the Stros?
I think it's valid. I really do. And Mullins has been a guy that he loves being in Baltimore, but as of earlier this season, there was no discussions there whatsoever about keeping him in Baltimore long term. And considering where they're at this season and his contract situation, like, that makes all the sense in the entire world for them to explore the market. And the Astros, they need an outfielder, and if they can end up getting a guy like Mullins who can play really strong defense, that makes plenty of sense for them. And Michael Elias knows the Astros organization because he was with them for many years. So there's some familiarity. I don't know what his relationship is like with Dana Brown, but he's got plenty of familiarity with ownership there and just people there in general. So I think that's something to absolutely watch. Obviously, Jeremy Pena getting hurt is suboptimal. That is not great. So that impacts the Astros now and for at least the next 4 to 6 weeks, or however long he's going to end up being out. But they are going to be aggressive. I expect them to go and make some trades. And Dana Brown is a guy who checks in on a lot of different stuff. So I would expect that connection and just plenty of others to really heat up over the next few weeks.
And stay tuned to the podcast. We will bring plenty of information here on the Baseball Insiders as we have it about any of these connections and more. Good comments, good questions, a couple of things that we should address before we sign off. And we want to thank everybody for dropping all of these off during the show. Our viewers and listeners are the greatest, and they have good questions and needs. Couple of Dodgers questions, and we talked about the Dodgers' need for bullpen help on the last show, which is, again, so funny based on the way they spent their offseason, but also objectively true. So questions about Ryan Helsley and maybe Nolan Arenado, who that doesn't really seem like it makes sense. We're going to hear those, that team and that name connected until it happens, but this doesn't feel like the year. But Helsley doesn't feel like he'll move to me, especially because the Cardinals occupy a playoff spot. A lot could change, but that team seems to be playing with fire. Fairbanks and Helsley, I mean, the Rays are insane, so I can't rule anything out. But this seems like two unavailable players to me. I'm curious your thoughts here.
Yeah, Helsley, I'd be surprised if they move him. Yeah, I don't see that being the case. And Arenado, I mean, we've said it a ton in the offseason. Plan A, B, and C was to move Arenado, and they did not accomplish that at all. So that was just a bad process by them overall, but somehow it's worked and they're occupying a playoff spot, but I don't expect them to move Arenado now. I would be pretty surprised by that. Fairbanks, that is the $1 million question here. And last year they were asked about him a ton, and considering the prices for guys like Tanner Scott and so many others who were moved, I thought the Rays would be enticed to do it, but They signaled that they were not really willing or eager to move him at all. This year, I wonder if that could be a little bit different. And he's one of the better ones in baseball. He obviously has extensive history in Tampa Bay. He's loved by the organization, and the organization loves him, and he loves the organization. But that being said, I think there's a better chance of it now than there was last season. But when I say better chance, I still am kind of leaning toward unlikely. But with the right offer, and if a guy like Helsley or some of these other guys are off the market with limited sellers, then I wonder if the Rays can end up doing a mix of buying and selling. So name to watch there for sure. But I think at least a slightly better chance he moves this year than last year.
Appreciate the question, and that's
good
honestly,
question.
Yeah, more than I expected there, because I feel like Fairbanks is a tough one. Also, East teams in the North, be careful with the Raynaud's disease. His fingers struggle in the cold weather. So trade teams, just think about what you're giving up there. Seeing multiple questions about Josh Young and the Yankees, which was brought up by Mike Axisa in his newsletter, I believe, today. Underwhelming Rangers, potential developing young star whose development hasn't matched, what they expected of him. Seems like a perfect candidate to go to New York and get lit up by a Yankees fan base that's expecting, legends at every position. Seems like I understand the impulse to say, hey, maybe this is a fit. The Yankees need a third baseman. He's got potential and pedigree, but also this sort of sounds like a disaster waiting to happen to me. So underwhelming third base market. I don't think any Yankee fans are waving their pennants about Ryan McMahon or keep Ryan Hayes, but just add Young as another guy who it's like, man, yeah, I hear you. The logic is sound, but that seems like a mess.
Yeah, I don't see that one happening. I don't think the Rangers are going to do that, or I don't think the Yankees are going to do that. I mean, maybe the Rangers do it, but I don't expect them to do that. No, I'd be pretty surprised. The Rangers, I've said it in the Discord, I've said it on the last episode, and I'll say it again. We're probably going to come down to the wire on what they're going to end up doing. And obviously, he's not had the start of his career that the Rangers had hoped. They thought he was going to be a franchise cornerstone, but it has not played out that way. But no, I don't think that the Yankees are going to be the team there if he's moved, which I don't expect to happen. Good
question, though, of course, and always down to talk about Yankees third base options, but I don't feel this is the one. But thank you for the question. Ryan G really wants to talk about the Jays, so let's talk about them. Their Pythagorean record indicates that they should be one game under 500, but they are decidedly not. They are in the race, and they should operate as a team that just signed Vlad Jr. long-term and should be busy. We know they always try to dip their toes into a lot of different puddles. So thoughts on the Jays, what they need and what they could legitimately acquire.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan G answered his own question where Ross Atkins mentioned the need for a right-handed bat and pitching depth today. So I would look at those things as things that they end up targeting. Nothing to my knowledge is imminent by any means, but they absolutely need to go out and do something like that and get some names because you said it, Vlad Jr. signed long-term, Alejandro Kirk signed long-term. They finally got that core in place. We don't know how long Bo Bichette's going to be there. So I think it makes plenty of sense, and I expect them to buy. And yes, Jake Wood, I think Ali Marmol is definitely worthy of that honor. Yeah, if it's not him, then I don't know who would necessarily be. And Mason, that is the comp I was trying to think of in my head as I was going through that answer. I feel like that could end up being a Joey Gallo situation there in New York. So that's actually I'll agree with you on that one. And there's also one other thing I got to get off my chest today. Are you ready for this, Adam?
I don't know. I mean, I honestly, I just got told by Mason that New York did something to Joey Gallo and not that Joey Gallo showed up and sucked in New York. So I'm ready for anything.
I misread it. I was thinking he was comping that, but New York didn't do anything to Joey Gallo besides, I mean, maybe their fans were a little tough on him, but I mean, that's what you expect in New York. But non-Yankees or non-New York or Rangers related. Why the heck have the Pirates not called up Bubba Chandler yet? I have zero idea why this is not a thing yet. And maybe they're waiting to clear up some room in the rotation. I don't know. But that they haven't called him up yet is pretty baffling to me. And that just seems like organizational malpractice in my eyes. So Pittsburgh Pirates, you guys got to do better because he belongs in the majors. And it should have been a while ago because we're seeing what Jacob Mizorowski is doing with the Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, why can't Bubba Chandler have that same impact alongside Paul Skeens? Like we mentioned before, Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez there in Houston. I honestly really think that Skeens and Chandler together would be better than that. And that's saying that's a high praise, but it's the reality. Like they're both that good.
We're in an odd spot with Bubba Chandler now where he's starting to regress a little bit in terms of control. You know, he had one bad start on the 22nd. He walked 4 3 1/3 over the weekend, walked 4 2/3 of an inning on June 11th. But it honestly is like, hey, is the command lacking? Or is he just losing focus because he is bored at AAA after running over AAA hitters? And we won't know until he's promoted. But I mean, we're coming up on July. I don't really know what the Pirates are waiting for at this point. He's not going to win Rookie of the Year. You don't need to worry about that. So you need to see what you have. And now they're going to use this command hiccup as like, well, you know, he's got to work on, like Roman Anthony's got to work on hitting breaking balls in the zone or whatever. No, he doesn't. He needs to be in the major leagues. And Bubba Chandler said he doesn't have anything to work on. He's not going to get any better in AAA. You get him in the major league coaching staff and bring him up.
Yeah, no, it's. I think you're spot on about that. I think he might be bored in AAA, and haven't heard anything to say that's like actually the case. But I mean, you can connect the dots. I mean, it's ridiculous that they haven't called him up yet. And Kyle and Drew, no Padres rumors.
But we appreciate you asking, of course. And since we can't deliver those, I will go ahead and deliver Biscuit. So thank you for joining us on the Monday show. We will be back again on the Wednesday show at 1 o'clock Eastern. Eric Cole and I will be breaking down the futures game and any potential snubs tomorrow at noon on the Prospect Show. Yes, Chase Burns and Garrett Crochet at Fenway. You should definitely watch that tonight. If you weren't already planning on it, reserve some time in your calendar. You can also subscribe to the Moonshot, Fansided MLB's weekly email newsletter, dropping you answers on the biggest questions across baseball from Robert, myself, and the rest of the Fansided MLB staff writer team. They've got a great power rankings that are coming out every week as well. Fansided.com/baseball-insiders for more content from Robert and myself and the MLB staff writer crew. Great writers there, oddball weirdness, and that is the only place where you can read it. Robert Murray, anything else in the notebook? I'm going to turn it over to you for a little bit. Talk about anything upcoming that you want to advertise ahead of the holiday weekend while I run and get Biscuit from the other room.
Well, I have nothing new in the notebook necessarily, which is probably not what Adam wanted to hear because he just ran away to go get his dog. But I will have plenty of different rumors and news for you guys, hopefully sooner rather than later. I will be going to the All-Star game. I leave on July 12th, and we'll get back the 16th. So I'll get there, a lot of information there. And without further ado, here is Biscuit.
It's Biscuit. Hi, everybody. Got a haircut about 3 weeks ago. He's still looking good. He's looking spry. He hasn't been on the podcast in a while. Robert will be at the All-Star game. We're going to have plenty of content from Atlanta. I will not be on site, but that's probably the best way to handle that. I'll be at home. We'll be producing. We'll be getting great stuff face-to-face from media, from the futures game, all that good stuff. Any questions for Biscuit while we're still here? Biscuit, anything in the notebook, buddy?
Yeah. And Biscuit is actually my source for the not Bubba Chandler, but for the Rafael Devers stuff. That's how I ended up breaking the Devers thing. Is Biscuit gave it to me.
Yeah, for those wondering, we really appreciate you joining us today. We will see you again on Wednesday, maybe with some Cooper in the mix. But for now, Biscuit, say bye, buddy. We got to sign off. We'll catch you later on the Baseball Insiders.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you, Biscuit.